Can we just be honest with ourselves? This thing is disgusting. It's the nastiest case I've had to clean to date, and I know I've said that quite a bit this season, but there's a reason why I've saved this one for last. This is the finale, episode 10 of season 1 of PCDC. Thank you so much for your support throughout this playlist so far. And don't worry, there is a season 2 coming, and we already have so many people lined up in the Orlando, Florida area to have their systems cleaned. If you want to have your system cleaned and it looks anything like this here, send my wife an email. The details are in this video's description. But my oh my, this thing, it's a whole lot of yuck. Now I knew today's video sponsor would come in handy. Be Quiet sent us a Dark Power 12. This is an 850 watt unit, which is supreme overkill from a wattage perspective for this kind of build here. Nonetheless, he's gonna have plenty of breathing room ahead of him. And one of the best things about this unit is that it's 80 plus titanium rated, which means that you can run this thing at 100 watts load or 750 watts load. It's going to stay extremely efficient all the way through the curve. It is no small feat to get an 80 plus titanium rating, and that's why these Dark Power 12 units are so special. This unit in here is okay in its own right. I think it's balanced for the particular specifications of this build so far, but it's caked in dust, and not just dust, but serious grime that will not come off with just air alone. Now, I've said it before, and I will say it again, I don't like deep cleaning power supplies. There's a reason why you'll never see me do it in this playlist. It's because things in here can kill you. There's enough amperage in some of these capacitors that don't effectively drain long term that can stop your heart, okay? It's not a game, and if you don't want to take that extreme of an approach, you can still damage the power supply, or even worse than that, damage other components when you go to reconnect the power supply and flip the power switch on, right? So it's just not a laughing matter no matter how you look at it. When something gets this dirty, just go ahead and replace it outright. And what better product to replace it with than the Dark Power 12? This thing comes with a 10-year warranty, folks. That's a decade of peace of mind. It's very hard to find those kinds of warranties in this industry. Now, as for other upgrades, his CPU cooler looks to be stock, could definitely use one. Problem is a lot of tower coolers are too tall for this very slim case. It leaves us with one of two options. We can go with another low-profile CPU cooler, which is kind of like what he already has, or we could go with the very unconventional AIO. And that's where this comes into play. This is an Asetek AIO, but it uses a very, very small radiator, which actually fits perfectly here. I think it's an 86 millimeter fan. I might be wrong, I'll put a little note here if I'm wrong. But this is definitely smaller than the standard 120 or 140 mil mounts, and it will fit perfectly back there. So we'll replace his cooler with this. We'll replace his power supply with this beefcake right here. And I think that's where we're gonna leave it. I want to intentionally leave the case. The case as is pretty old school. It's also like a sleeper style build if we leave the case as is, because he's gonna have pretty beefy components in here and plenty of room to expand in the future thanks to this power supply. So with that, we're gonna take this thing outside first. I'm gonna take my leaf blower to it. I'm not even joking. There's so much dust in here. I'm gonna try to get as much loose dust as I can out of it outside. I am not cleaning this thing in my office. No chance at all. So let's take it outside. Now at this point, we're on to day 2. Everything is installed and wired, save the graphics card and the power supply. Now this Dark Power 12 from Be Quiet has a few features worth noting, including the inclusion of a Silent Wings fan with a frameless design, which means this power supply is going to run extremely quiet. It's virtually inaudible under load. It's also extremely efficient, again, hence that 80+ titanium rating, and it's fully modular, meaning you only have to install the cables that you really need, meaning you can save space in compact builds like these. This will be linked below if you want to check it out. If you're upgrading to something like Ampere or RDNA 2, those cards can be pretty power intensive, and your 450, 500 watt power supply might need an upgrade in that case. In fact, it more than likely will need an upgrade in that case unless your CPU just sips on power. And I strongly recommend one of these units or something as efficient as this from the Be Quiet lineup for such an upgrade. So let's get this brick installed. It's going to be fairly tight in here, and then after that we'll move on to the graphics card, wire the remaining components up, and make sure that this thing posts before we give it back to Lewis. All right, so we're gonna plug this thing in. I believe everything is wired correctly. I'm gonna make sure that this posts before we give it back to our viewer. Flip the switch on. That was weird. Oh. Quite a bit going on in there. Sounds like it's working. The pump seems to be working. We should be getting a post here soon. Make sure the HDMI cable is plugged in. Sounds good. All right, there we go, folks. Looking good. I'm not sure if it's gonna know which drive to boot into. Probably not. I think it wants us to hop into the BIOS. But I'm gonna make sure, let's see, we got all the drives detected. Yep, looks good. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's about all I do in these. I don't really like to go through their systems. And many of you have been asking about running tests before and after, you know, the temperature delta before the dust is cleared and after. Honestly, I mean, we've done similar things kind of off camera. I've had dirty systems before that I've tested before and after, and the differences weren't substantial. That's why I never really made a dedicated video about it. But I suppose since we've been dealing with such dirty systems now, we could revisit that maybe in a dedicated video. And then if anyone asks about that in the future, we can just link back to that video instead of having to do this over and over, because it would become redundant after a while, and you would see very quickly that the temperature difference isn't as big as you'd probably expect given how much dust some of these systems have. But anyway, this system is good to go. We're going to put the left side panel, actually in this case it's the right side panel because this is an inverted build, back on here, and we'll give it back to Lewis. Well, I've got to say, I have thoroughly enjoyed cleaning these systems over the past few months. I know it doesn't sound like something one would enjoy, but it has just been so, I don't know, personally fulfilling to see these systems transformed from what they used to be. And in this case, I mean, this one looked so bad. The worst we've cleaned in this playlist so far. But seeing the end result, seeing how much cleaner it is, and look, it's not perfect. I'm not saying that it's perfect. The case has blemishes that I can't get out with IPA or soap and water. It's just not gonna happen. There are a few other things in here that I wish I could clean a bit more. I cannot because of how this stainless steel, for example, has all these, you know, blemishes and things in it. I can't get these things out, but I can remove all of the dust. I can do my best to get these looking as new as possible, and then if I can, also upgrade one or two things along the way. I would like to give a big thanks again to Be Quiet for sponsoring this video, for supplying us with this Dark Power 12 850 watt 80 plus titanium power supply for Lewis's build. I think it has transformed it, not only given him a viable upgrade path now, he has plenty of power or wattage breathing room, I should say, for other upgrades in the future, but it looks darn good. I mean, if I've ever seen a pretty power supply before, this one is it. So be sure to check out the Dark Power 12 linked below if you have a dirty system and you want it cleaned and you live in the Central Florida area. Yeah, send my wife an email, lisa@salazarstudios.org. She has so many of these dirty builds in the queue already, but it never hurts to have a few more, and eventually we'll get to you, assuming that your system is actually dirty enough to be worthy of a video on this playlist. Speaking of which, Season 2 is coming very soon. There's not going to be a huge delay between seasons just because, we have so many to clean in this area, which has been surprising. I'm very thankful for how many folks are willing to trust me with their systems for several days at a time. I know it's not easy to see your precious system, you know, leave your hands for any amount of time, but I'm very appreciative of those who have not only given us content, I mean, we're able to make videos with these builds, but also just trusted me personally with cleaning these things up and not damaging anything, which that would be awful. But I'm trying to be as careful as I can here, as professional as possible, and I'm trying to document all of that for you guys here in this series. So let me know in the comments down below what you thought of this series, what you think of this video, this build in particular, and what you'd like to see in Season 2. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below. I just said that. Why am I saying that again? Give this video a thumbs up. I would appreciate that. And stay tuned for the next video. My name is Greg. Thanks for cleaning with me.